Welcome back. I'm Pat, that Halloween movie collector, and I'm back with What If for 2018. Yes, the next three are going to be the What Ifs for the David Gordon Green trilogy, so it's going to get interesting here. Arguably my favorite of the trilogy. I thought it was a good return to form. I do address in this What If losing the whole sibling angle, whether it worked or not. But 2018, I thought it was a great movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The other two, I like certain aspects of, but not as much as I like 2018. But let's do this. Let's get straight into my what ifs for Halloween 2018. So my number one. So I love the opening of this film. I love that it opens up Smith's Grove, and you see that whole wide angle shot overhead of like that checkerboard courtyard that they have. I just love that visual. You see the cameras because it's obviously maximum security. They're trying to watch these guys. And I do like Michael being out there without the mask, obviously, because he's not going to have the mask. This isn't the end of part 5. He's not going to get locked up with a mask. That I do enjoy that, and I like that whole visual. So my first what if is, what if when Aaron comes out and he holds up the mask, what if Michael turned around and faced him? Didn't have to talk to him. Michael never hid from people before. He always looked straight on at him. It's not like he would necessarily keep his back to him. And you didn't have to see Michael's face because you figure we're seeing everything from Aaron's point of view, looking at the back of Michael. So what's to say we don't flip it and look from the back of Michael, looking towards Aaron with the mask, and you're seeing the back of Michael. So they're seeing his face because they can see it. We're not supposed to see it. So I think that would have been a better visual had he said, the whole thing where he's talking to him and his back is to him. But when he brings the mask out and seeing Michael just slowly turn with that a subtle movement that Michael would always have, I thought that would be great. So that is my number one. What if Michael turned around and faced Aaron and Dana? My number two. So after they meet Michael and they meet Dr. Sartain, where did they go? They said, okay, let's go see the counterpart to Michael, and let's go visit Laurie Strode and get her story because they want her information on the podcast and just to get some more stuff for their podcast, so to speak, for their investigation. And the long and short of it is they're hoping to get the two of them together. So my number two is, what if Laurie agreed to meet Michael? Why not? They could have met in that courtyard the same way where he's chained, and he could have turned to face her. There could have been that meeting where they're looking at each other. And I think that would have been cool. Why not? There's no reason why they couldn't have done it that way. I don't think Michael would have just jumped and broke the chains and chased after her because, in theory, their MO for this movie was it's not about Laurie, so he's not chasing her. So it's not like he was going to go batshit crazy and go after her because technically, Laurie, it's not about you in this trilogy. So that would have been pretty cool. So then my number three addresses the whole prison transfer and the means of Myers escaping and getting to Laurie's house. Them getting him there because that's not where he's looking to go anyway. So the whole prison transfer, and obviously this is a spoiler. You're not going to be watching this if you don't know how these movies play out. So obviously Sartain gets on there with the intention of helping Michael escape, facilitating Michael's escape from the bus. So what if that plot line wasn't there? What if Laurie took a shot at the transfer bus? Because remember, she's sitting there, she's drinking, she got the gun, and she wanted to see Allison and the family. I wanted to shoot him. What if that was the vehicle for him to escape? What if she took shots at the van? Why not? Because then it could have crashed. Michael could have escaped. It could have been a whole melee. She could have went after him then. And it would have worked out better than the whole Sartain angle, which was a load of horse shit. My number four plays right into my number three. What if Dr. Sartain didn't orchestrate the escape? What if he wasn't on the bus? Like I said, Laurie could have just took shots. What if he was on the bus? Because he was sort of like a Loomis, where he said, I need to make sure he gets there because I don't trust him. There's something up with that guy. He's pure evil. So maybe he was on the bus during the transfer. So what if he didn't orchestrate it and it didn't play out that way? I think a lot of people would have been happier, myself included. So my number 5, one of the best sequences in this film is in the gas station bathroom when he comes after Dana and then and chases her. It's just, Rhiannon Reeves was fantastic in that. Screaming bloody murder. She was great in that scene. And when Aaron comes in and they get in that whole big fight, to me, one of the best sequences in this film. One of the highlights of the trilogy, as far as I'm concerned, in my own opinion. And this was always spoken about, 4 kills and ends. Everybody was always wondering if Aaron survived. So what if Aaron survived? Right? What if, he got his head bashed in. Theoretically, you know what? He maybe didn't bleed to death. Maybe he got knocked unconscious, went to shock, and they came, and obviously Dana was killed, so that's over and done with. But we could have dealt with the aftermath of his story, him saying, look, we don't know what the fuck happened. We went and talked to him. He was locked up. They were going to transfer him, and somehow, some way, he came here. He killed my girlfriend and tried to kill me. So he could have had that whole story. Maybe we could have got a little bit more information out of him. He could have been the vengeful person that could even came back later in one of the movies because killed his girlfriend. So I think had he survived, there could have been a lot of different possibilities. So my number 6 was probably considered fan service, although replacing this character in the trilogy could have been easy because he was completely useless. For my number 6, what if Sheriff Brackett was still the sheriff? He could have been. My uncle was the chief of police where I grew up for, 40 years, 40 some odd years before he retired. Who knew how long Brackett was sheriff? Because you remember he was, I guess, theoretically back then in his late 30s, in 78. He could have very easily been the sheriff. You know, the sheriff doesn't need to get into the thick of things. That's what he's got deputies for and other police officers and sergeants and lieutenants. What if he was still sheriff? Barker was completely useless. He was a bag of shit. And we come to find out he's an elected politician. So I guess it's an elected position. Maybe it wasn't back in the day, 78, when Brackett was sheriff. It was appointed on merit and experience. But why not? Because then we could have had a Charles Cyphers in there in 2018. He could have been monitoring the fact that Myers was locked up all these years because he killed his only daughter. You know? And in theory, Halloween 2 doesn't exist, but that doesn't make a difference here because Annie was killed in part 1. So all that other part stuff in H2 wouldn't have been there, but killed his only daughter. Why couldn't he be there? So he could have helped facilitate chasing after Myers. He would have been more sympathetic and gave a little bit more support to Hawkins because of what he went through, obviously his losing his daughter, and all the carnage that happened that night. Affected him, his whole family, affected the whole town. So he would have been more helpful to Hawkins than a hindrance like the useless piece of shit Sheriff Barker was. My number 7, one of the biggest gripes with a lot of people about this film. So my number 7 is, what if Sartain was the new Loomis? I was invested when you first saw him. I thought, especially he's got the accent. He talked very distinguished, albeit he was Turkish. He's not English like Donald Pleasance, but it gave a much more like that aura that Dr. Loomis portrayed, like very educated, very well spoken. That's the way Sartain came off when you first met him, and he seemed to generally be invested in Myers' story. I mean, when you first hear him talk to Aaron and Dana, there's no real inclination of what's to come of him, how he's obsessed with Myers. It's more, he knows how he is. He's saying, he's aware. He knows. He watched you when you came here. Don't get too close. Never underestimate anybody. But the same feelings that Loomis had, like, hey, just because he's standing there, the staff wasn't prepared, is what Loomis had said back in the day. And he's saying, too, always be on your guard with this guy. Just because he's standing there, he doesn't talk, doesn't mean anything. So I thought he would have been a good Loomis. He could have been with Hawkins, much like Brackett and Loomis were together. Why not? They could have facilitated another way to get the two of them together. Vis-a-vis some of the suggestions I just made where it pissed Myers off when he saw Laurie face to face. So when he gets out, he wants to go after her. There's so many other possibilities that they could have used a different vehicle to get Myers from Haddonfield, in Haddonfield, to go after Laurie. So my number 8 goes back to one of my previous entries, getting rid of completely useless characters in this. My number 8, what if Karen was divorced? Say she's a single mom. She's divorced or separated. Doesn't necessarily have to be finalized. You didn't need Ray there. Served no purpose whatsoever. He was a completely useless character with shitty dialogue. If you pulled him out of the equation, this film would have changed one iota. Even at the very end when he gets killed, it's like they don't give a rat's ass. They don't even ask him where he is. So he could have been easily omitted from this film. Granted, I think they heard a lot of people say, like, well, you just lost your husband, and Allison just lost her father, so they did have a little bit of that, where they were sitting on the steps in the hospital and discussing that. But he could have completely been out of this film. And it probably would have played better where with Karen's upbringing and the hardship she went through with Laurie, if she was doing it on her own. Maybe Allison does have the father in her life, but could be mentioned sort of like in the H2O. The ex-husband's mentioned because he's the father of John Strode, and obviously he was a drug addict or whatever, or a wacko. Could have just been mentioned, but didn't need to be seen because his dialogue was garbage, and all the scenes he was in, you could have easily pulled him out, and nothing would have changed. Right? And this is no slight on Toby Huss. He's actually a pretty good actor. I'm a fan of other things he's done. He's actually real funny when he does comedy. So it's no slight on Toby Huss, whatever. It's not his fault. He just did what he was dealt, and he was dealt a hand of shit. My number 9 probably plays a little bit more into some more fan service, but it could have also developed into what you see in Halloween Kills. So there was always a big mystery from the end of this film. So at the end of the film, we know how it plays out, and they're getting Laurie out of the house because obviously they want to get to a hospital. Allison runs out to a street, flags down a pickup truck, and they get in. But nobody ever mentions who the guy is. There's no mention of anything about that. So it was always speculation before we went to see Kills. Who could it be? Could it be somebody from one of the previous films? Well, what if it was somebody from the previous films? What if it was Tommy Doyle? What if it was Lonnie Elam? What if it was somebody from the previous film, somebody that we knew that was part of the franchise? That would have been a little bit more invested. They could have, if it had been Tommy, he would have been at the hospital. He would have been like, holy shit, this is Laurie. Whereas, their interactions in the hospital were kind of shit and Kills. This would have been a little bit more serious because he just happened to be driving by. Maybe he lives in the area. Maybe he knows that Laurie's there. He knows it's Halloween. Let me just pass by. Just think about what happened that night, like they always do with that opening scene in Kills where they were in the bar together, which is a little crazy too, a little far-fetched. But why not? I think because I was speculating. Everybody I knew was speculating. Okay, who the fuck's driving this pickup truck? Is it just somebody they know, or is it just some random guy? Yeah. And for me, my biggest one, my number 10, and they could have very easily worked this into this storyline, is what if Halloween 2 was canon? Because they could have had the brother-sister sibling. They could have had the sibling thing still going there. There's no reason not to. They had it in Part 4, 5, and 6, and worked to a degree in those. And you also had it in H2O and Resurrection to a degree. There's no reason why they could have kept that brother-sister angle, because for me, the way Laurie Strode was for the past 40 years, where she was like a recluse, she was obsessed with Myers, and she was basically like Rambo on steroids and living in a bunker. That, to me, would have been a little bit more believable had she lived not only through the events of 78, which is not to be diminished because anybody going through that would have issues. But to spend the next 40 years like that, after that one night? No. Had part 2 been canon, and he survived, followed her to Halloween 2, killed people there trying to find her and get and chase after her, okay, then that might be a little bit more believable the way she is for the past 40 years. Because of all the shit that happened in part 2. But I find it hard to believe, yeah, you're going to have mental issues. I can only imagine going through that type of shit when you're, 17-year-old girl. And you get 2 of your friends killed. Well, 3 of your friends, because I'm sure she was friends with Bob. And you're chased and all that shit that went down. I'm not diminishing that, but to spend 40 years like a lunatic like that? All right, that's a little far-fetched. Her mania was a little bit more believable in 20, H2O. Because, she had a drinking problem, and it was probably really only affecting her because it was Halloween. I'm sure during the year she had issues, but that was a little bit more believable, the way it played out, Laurie's demeanor and character in H2O. But this was a little far-fetched, so I think had Halloween 2 been canon, people would have digested the way she was a little bit more. So there you have it. Those are my 10 what-ifs for Halloween 2018. Which ones did you come up with? Hit me up in the comments. Let me know ones that you came up with. Let me know if you came up with any of the ones that I came up with. There's probably 1 or 2 that I know I've spoken to friends in the past that are fans of the film that have brought up to me, and I've brought it up to them. Like, yeah, that would have been better had this been a little bit different. But that's the whole fun of this exercise. Let's speculate. What if this happened? How would it change the film? Would it make the film better? Because people always have issues with films. There's no perfect film, except the original, in my opinion. So let me know. So if you're a Halloween fan, you're a fan of stuff like this, all kinds of horror content, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Helps a brother out. Helps people find this channel. There's lots of Halloween stuff on here. There's 2 more what-ifs coming for the Halloween franchise, which is Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. So I'll have them out in the next 2 weeks. Go check out all the other what-ifs that I've done so far. I've done one for every film leading up to 2018. So go check them out. I think you'll enjoy them. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Don't cost nothing. We're closing in on 1,000 subscribers, which is awesome. Thank you, everybody out there that supports the channel and comes back each week, watches the videos, and listens to me ramble on about shit I'm obsessed with. Watch the podcast on Sunday nights or the watch-alongs on Tuesday nights. We appreciate each and every one of you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do subscribe. Check out the link below here, where I am giving away 2... Well, I'm actually giving away 1, rather. I'm just giving the winner the chance to choose which one they want. So I have 2 Dr. Chalice figures signed. So when we hit 1,031 subscribers, Halloween, I'm going to raffle off one of these figures. And I'm going to keep one for myself, and the winner's going to get the other. But I'm going to give the winner the option of picking which one they want, whether you want it signed in orange or signed in green from Tom Atkins, who I just had it signed as of this recording this past weekend at Monster Mania. This would be a nice addition to anybody's collection. So all you have to do is subscribe. Just hit the link below. I'm probably going to record an updated video of that just because it doesn't include the option of picking either one of these because they weren't. I didn't have it signed at the time. So probably going to throw another one up there. But for now, hit that link and just do everything you got to do and sign up and you could win it because we're closing in quick. Like to see this go to somebody that's a big Halloween fan or horror fan and be a nice addition to their collection. So check everything out on the channel. We're here every Sunday night doing that horror movie podcast with my buddies Joe and Brett. Every Tuesday night we do watch-alongs of horror films. We do a comedy once a month on that live movie watch-along. Couldn't spit it out. And we just have a ball watching films and talking about the film, whether it's comedy, breaking each other's balls, having a couple of drinks, and it's just a lot of fun. This is a mishmash of all sorts of shit that's fun on this channel, so I hope you find it fun. I hope you find it interesting. I hope you come back, and I hope you subscribe. Don't be shy. Make sure you comment. I always answer the comments. And until next time, I will talk to you soon.